Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I picked a topic today to talk about because of this last fall tournament on Sam Rayburn, kind of the story of the transition of the fish throughout the tournament. I thought it was kind of interesting. I was kind of looking back on it the other day, and I was wanting to make a fall transition type tournament, and I felt like that was like the perfect scenario because I mean it just spelled it out all the way through of what a cold front in the fall can actually do to some fish like that. So that's what we're talking about today. I'm sorry for those of you that are keeping up with the channel. This week I haven't posted a lot of videos. I got back, like I said in my other video, I had to go straight to work, and I just haven't really had time to file through all the footage and everything from the tournament, or even sit down to make a video about anything else. But I will have that tournament video out eventually. Right now I'm packing up. I'm going back to Illinois for the week, which is going to be good. I'm going to get a new car, pick it up there and drive it back down. So a lot of driving, but I'm going to get to go bow hunting over the weekend, so that's nice too. I haven't done that in a while. But when I get back, I'll be able to go through that footage from the tournament and actually make a tournament video and everything, and be able to show you guys everything that happened. But let's talk about it. So practice, right when I got there, immediately I was catching them pretty shallow. Like I got on this kind of cool bite on the main lake around some of the stumps and stuff. The water was down a lot, so there were a lot of fish up there, shallow, but it was pretty quick that I found out that a lot of them were just like 14 inchers, maybe a lot of small ones. And so after I kind of cycled through some areas doing that, and really it just started seeming like there really wasn't a lot of big bites to be had up there, or they were really just random, super random. Whenever you'd catch maybe a 2 or 3, but still, like I had said before, I wasn't really interested in going out there and weighing in a 10-pound limit. That's just good enough to to like maybe scratch out a check when the bite's tough or something. But I was wanting to try to find a way to get some big bites, so I dedicated the last probably the last few days. I really think I only ran a lot of shallow stuff, probably maybe for the first day or so, and then I transitioned to looking for brush, targeting that offshore grass, just anything off the bank, just stuff that purely I was looking for a brush pile or an area that I could get some big bites on. And I found it a few days before the tournament. I started getting some bigger bites offshore, and here's where where you got to keep such a open mind when it comes to stuff like this is, as the tournament was coming up, we had that cold front move in where it got really cold. One of the nights it was like in the high to mid 30s, and leading up to it, it was cooling off all the way. And anytime something like that happens in the fall, you can expect that you're gonna have the fish change in some way. And that's why when I was pre-fishing the days before the tournament, I was really just wanting to find some areas and stuff, and some ways to catch them that I was really confident in. I thought that when the tournament rolled around, I had some things to start, and I could go try them and just see what gave me a good return. What the fish were telling me on the day of the tournament. So really right the day before the tournament, I went out to the opposite side of the lake because the way the wind set up, I wasn't sure how bad it was going to get on one side of the lake, and I might need to switch over and just try that side. So I had mainly pre-fished on the east side of the lake, which the wind was going to be out of the southwest the next day, blowing into it. But from practice, I had definitely been targeting windy areas and stuff, because just gets the bait fish moving and everything, gets the fish feeding. So back to the fall transition thing, that cold front had moved in, and my bites had been coming offshore from the big ones, and brush piles out off the bank, things like that. And I had been catching a lot of small ones up by the grass. Cold front moves in, but we had kind of a delayed effect. Like, the water doesn't warm up or cool down like the air does. You get that delayed effect. So initially, nothing had changed. at all for me. And then go out on tournament day, and I felt like really the water temperature had kind of started to catch up, and the fish, to me, had really even more so turned on, the ones that I had found. I started out in the morning on my brush piles, and it wasn't working. I can't say it wasn't working. I broke off a big one in a brush pile, and I caught another like 3-pounder out of another brush pile, but it wasn't. It was tough to get bit, and I kind of burned through my stuff pretty quick. Not getting a whole. Only ended up with one fish off of the piles that I thought maybe I could end up with a limit pretty quick off of. So I go back to the grass because that was my other thing that I kind of had to try, and even though I hadn't got any big bites off of it, with that cold front moving in the fall, a lot of times that bite can turn on, and some of those big ones can really get active and start feeding up there. So I go to the grass, and what had not produced hardly any big bites at all throughout practice, almost immediately, within the first, I don't know how far I went down the bank. I couldn't have made 10 casts, caught a keeper, and that's a good immediate return. And then I caught a couple more, was getting a lot of small ones running up and grabbing it and stuff, and then I switched banks to just a more of a wind-blown area, and maybe halfway down I caught a 5-pounder. So at that point, that was a quick amount of time from what I had experienced in practice to immediately get a big bite, which at that point I didn't know if I lucked onto it or if it really was kind of the deal that was happening that day. And I think it took me another maybe 20 minutes after that 5-pounder, and I had my limit and was culling. So that was decent, but I still knew that I needed, you got to have more, and I needed on the first day to kind of put myself in a better position. So I kept running it, which I had already told my culling girl. I was like, we might do this for a little bit longer. I'm not quite sure if I just ran into a 5-pounder or not, but keep going down, catch that 7.6, and then we're rolling. Wind kind of died off, but that was kind of the signal that I got, that cold front had kind of caught up to him, because that was completely different than the experience I'd had in practice, size-wise of the fish and how quick they were biting. So this is day 1 of the tournament. So then you continue on to day 2. Day 2, it was like it had really hit them at that point. Like that cold front, it was such a delayed effect, because we're talking like 2 days after the peak of it. I felt like it really affected the fish even more, meaning that they started actually feeding up heavier, because day 2 of the tournament I caught probably 30 fish. I know it had to have been right around there. I wasn't counting, but my culling made the comment, halfway through the day, he's like, "You're catching a ton of fish." And I was like, yeah, this is way better of a bite than I even had in practice. And it was that like delayed effect after the cold front. The first morning you might not see the bite really turn on, and in the fall like that, you really can see it happen. And so here's kind of the story of what can happen though when you have that cold front, and then it just immediately, you get those sunny, windy days to heat it right back up. So day 2 of the tournament, I catch like 30 fish, and it's, lights out. And I was like, this can't end in 1 day's time. In my head, I was telling myself that. I was like, this has to be something. They're turned on so much today. I have to be able to go out tomorrow and catch a quick limit doing this, because it was just everywhere I stopped. I could do no wrong on day 2. They were everywhere. Day 3 comes around, and now we've had another day of windy and really hot in the afternoon, and I go out and it takes me a good little bit, probably 20 minutes before I get my first bite early in the morning. This is starting on like my prime stuff early in the morning, earlier than I've hit it the entire time, and it's just like a 14 incher. And then I run like the rest of like one of my like one of the best banks in that area for that day, given the wind blowing on it and everything. It all for me was dependent on the wind, but it told me pretty quick. I was like, this might have just kind of went away pretty quick. So I ran over to another spot that I hadn't hit that had the wind blowing on it. And like I said, the day before, I literally anywhere I stopped, they were there, and nothing. I made it like 3/4 of the way down the bank. I said, we're done. It's over. And I go offshore, like my third cast offshore on this grass flat. I catch a keeper, and I just kind of, I fell off of him. It was I had it in my head that I wasn't gonna fall off of them that quick, and that they couldn't move out that fast. But that's kind of the story of this fall cold front, with on I guess just how quick the fish can react to the change, because it was like that delayed effect. But it's delayed to the air temp, but the water, it was like it kind of cooled down. We got those cool days and stuff, and it really, the fish felt it, and then they fed up, and then it was just like a light switch when it heated back up and got windy and started warming that water back up, that they turned off just as quick as they did on the first day of the tournament. And I ended up finally, by the end of the day, I had solidified that I needed to ditch my plan, and I went out and I started catching them in the brush again. But that's what I'm talking about. These fall cold fronts, it's so critical to pay attention to how much it actually can affect the fish, and how quick they can turn right back off on these early ones. Because I guess this was the first really big cold front that Rayburn had seen this year, and it was like the fish reacted perfectly to it. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. But a lot of people think that it's going to be, you snap your fingers, it gets cold outside, and they move up there. But it was totally delayed, and you had to pay attention to what the days that the water was actually changing, not the air. The water is always going to be a little bit delayed, and so the fish are always going to be a little bit delayed when it comes to actually moving to their spots that they're supposed to be in a cold front like that. But it was kind of cool to watch, even though that on the last day I screwed up and I didn't follow them good enough. But definitely it was a textbook fall cold front, that made the fish react the way they did. But anyway, I hope the information helps you guys on your fall fishing this year. Helps you kind of keep track of them, and really take that into consideration, that maybe a few days before the time you got to the lake, if maybe a cold front went through and it's heating back up, to consider that the fish might be moving back off the bank as you're getting there, or they might be moving to it if you time it right. So thanks for watching the video, guys. See you on the next one.